The MillenniYell podcast provides a louder voice to the truths and issues that all generations face, sometimes alone, and the why. But together with millennial self-improvement junkies, Billy and myself, Mel, we can all be the change to overcome life's ups and downs through conversation and connection. Let's MillenniYell together.
What is going on, guys? Hopefully you're having a
Hola!
good day. It is Friday, so you already know what that means. And it's been 2 weeks since we've been on, so we're back.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, guys. It's another episode of MillenniYell with Billy and Mel. What is going on, guys? Hopefully you're having a good Friday so far. And it's my favorite time of the year. Winter is officially over.
You're loving.
Spring is here. Well, kind of spring is here. It's still a little gloomy
Almost.
out.
Yep.
But I forgot to tell you this last night. Before we get into the topic of the show, Megan and I were actually in Hershey last night.
I saw that. And I was like, you need to tell me when you're coming here so I can come see you. I mean, I know it was for the show, and it was a torrential downpour, lightning storm, and I may not have come out of the house for that, but I did see that. That's awesome.
Yeah. We went to
cool.
Trogs. We got a beer beforehand,
Good.
and then went and saw Third Eye Blind. It was a great show.
I
very
heard.
very millennial show to go to. It was full of millennials and Gen Xers.
I saw that
as far as the eye could see. I
saw that. I had a bunch of friends, and we were actually joking about the age that one of my friends texted, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a wild night at the Hershey Theater, because it's not like at the stadium or the Giant Center where it's like a little bit more rowdy. So it's like, oh, at the Hershey Theater. And he's like, oh yeah, all of us old people. And I was like, oh yeah, it probably is more Gen X, like older millennials and Gen Xers. And then got a text that said, wow, I didn't realize that the lead singer was 50, like 2 years old, or 50. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, he's 50. He's 56 years old.
56. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, well, no wonder. I mean, we were teenagers listening to that late or mid to late teens, maybe.
Yeah. No, the album.
Not even.
They talked about one of their first albums came. Well, they started
mid teenagers.
Yeah. Well, they started getting popular probably like right around like the 2000s. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was like 97 or 98 that one of the big songs came out, because that's what I was looking up. I was like, I kind of forget when they were big, right? So it makes sense that what age that they would have been, and then the people that were like listening to it probably were about 5 years older than us, and kind of like we talked about with Nell and Kenny about music. About like just how a couple years can make a big difference with music, right?
100%.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it was fun, good times, and cool. So it's just been fun. We're this weekend's gonna be fun. But Mel, how are you doing? It's been 2 weeks. Like, what's going on?
It has been, and I feel like it's been a whirlwind since the last 2 weeks, and it's like I forget what you look like sometimes. People might not like remember what we look like, so it's good that we're back. And but yeah, it's been fantastic with some new clients and some new direction that I've been taking. But I'm really glad that you picked this podcast topic, because it's like our brains must be on the same wavelength, even though we haven't done the podcast for 2 weeks. It's been a bit overwhelming, and keeping up with, the pace of things. But it's what I want. I think it's just, that this is where we need to talk about this today, because I'm literally struggling with it. But had a great St. Patrick's Day. Haven't done like the parade in downtown Harrisburg for many years, and kind of did a whole, celebration of that, which was exhausting. A reminder of why I don't do that as much and as often, but had a great time with friends. Really more fun than I've had in a really long time. So it was needed. But it's like, it felt like a vacation, and you're like back now recovering from the vacation, and it was just St. Patrick's Day weekend. So, but all good, just good, excited to yell about this. I need help.
Yeah, it was crazy. Just kind of the idea just kind of hit me all of a sudden, just because like it was just very present at that moment. And yeah, so what we're gonna be, what today's show is, first of all, if you guys haven't ever been on our show before or partaked in it, this is a live show, so make sure you're commenting and interacting. We'd love to see what you guys are thinking. And obviously, if you're catching this on the replay, you can always comment. We'll come back and we'll respond to your comments and stuff like that. So
Yep.
That's what makes this show really awesome, is that we get to interact with you guys. So yeah, so today's kind of topic is finding the balance between like success and being present, but really the pressure that we put on ourselves to be successful. Like,
yes.
And like one of the things that I like, and really where this came about was like, I know a few weeks ago, before Megan switched to a new job, she was in the running for a different job, and it was like the next line, like what the next step was supposed to be for her, right? Like the degree that she got. But I remember having a discussion, and this is kind of what I want to talk about, but I remember having a discussion, like asking her, like, and it's funny because like we're always so quick to like help somebody else, right, and give them that advice, and then not listening to this is
the last couple of months of my life.
Yeah. So, but anyways, going back to it, like sitting there and just asking her the question, like, is this because you want it, or is it this because society is telling you that this is what you're supposed to do?
That's good.
And because the other job would have been a little bit more increased in pay and, and stuff like that, but it would have been more pressure to perform, more pressure to, to do things that probably maybe she wouldn't have felt super comfortable doing,
Yes.
just personality wise. And so like going through that exercise and saying like, hey, like, is this really what I want, or is this what society is put in front of me, that this is success? And so that's what I was dealing with this week. Was just kind of like I was really looking, like we just got through, we're about, a couple of days from the second quarter of the year, right? And it's a really good time of the month to kind of just say, okay, how did the first 3 months go? How do I want the next 3 months to go? And like, and I was asking myself that question when I was kind of just reevaluating and just saying like, is this what I want, right? Or is this what society is telling me?
Or am I staying aligned with what my future self wants? With my vision. So that's
vision and values.
I want to hear all about it, because right now I've had these conversations, and I just this morning, but this last couple weeks is, is this, I go back to this, is this an opportunity or distraction, right? But it's more or less, does this align with my vision board, my future this, my future self? And if it's not, then why am I doing it? Or should I do it? And I've been very confused lately on asking myself those questions. Now I'm glad that I'm asking myself, because if not, I would just go one way or the other, right? But what did she, and I think it's also that like self-awareness and reflection, like what did she say? How did she lean into one, kind of direction or the other?
Are you talking about Megan?
Yeah, like because you were.
Yeah, so we kind of ended up going a different route, because we were able to step back and ask that question, like, what's really important to you, and what vision do you see yourself, right? And for us, like, we want to have a family, and one of those things, if she were to take on that job, it'd be a lot more stress, a lot more hours.
Okay.
So if you did have a family, like, we wouldn't be able to hang out, right, in that sense. And now that she's working from home, right? Yeah, so now we had, like, we looked at that, right? We're like, okay, yeah, that's great. You'll be making more money in job A, but you're going to have a lot more time freedom and, autonomy in B. You're still going to make good money, but you're going to have a lot more, like, leeway to do the things that you want to do, that you don't have to
Right.
spend an hour and 30 minutes every day driving, right?
Right. So like weighing the pros and cons, but
Yes.
really saying, what does this look like for our future, like for our family with our goals? Like that's huge because back at all these decisions that we've made up until recently in our lives that we've been knowing that we needed to do this with boundaries that we've made. I know I've made the wrong decision, and the wrong choice. But it had to be done in order to learn a lesson. And then it was hopefully not to make that same decision again. But that's really interesting because I'm struggling with that right now and like how to determine what that looks like. And it's very confusing for things that actually are completely opposite of what I've known. Like what we've known, what our past trauma, what our past thoughts, professionally, personally, financially, whatever. Right now, when things go right and when things seem, it's like I'm so confused because it's not what I'm used to, but it's really good. It's healthy, it's good, it's on the right track that I want to be on, but it's almost like I'm looking for something to pick it apart. I'm like looking for something like, in that, because there's been things that haven't been good, right? So you're kind of in this place and it's that pressure, like you said, of, which way I don't want to make the wrong decision, but sometimes how do you, these are great steps that we're taking. But I did want to bring a good point that I listened to Lewis Howes in the School of Greatness. And a lot of times he asks people at the end, what is greatness? And there's a, what does greatness mean? And there's a huge difference between success. A lot of people think what success is, but he says it's greatness. Like that's he has a difference of opinion, and I kind of agree with that. It's like, what is success? And that idea of what society thinks, it's the money, the cars, the material things, the status, and in reality, it's the greatness, and that could just be with your family, or a husband and all that, like not looking at it as external,
Yeah. I mean, that was going to be my first question. It's like, how do you define success, right?
Well, it's also like how I used to.
Yeah, and like how has that changed over time? Yeah.
It's significantly changed from reading and podcasts and being around people that I know that they seem successful on the outside, but they are miserable on the inside, or they're not good humans. And I think that success I really have a different perspective on success just the last year, even 6 months. Maybe, I think it changes. And I think that it has to do with that, being that greatness, like, giving back, being fulfilled, making sure that you like are aligned with your goals and your mission, and doing that to the greatest extent is success, and because I think that everything comes like when you make that a priority, the success then comes with it, or like the money then comes, I think. Whereas this idea of us from society having to be successful, to me, it's about money. I'm, like the negative, like how it used to be, like the word and it was always about making a certain amount of money and, hitting a certain point of notoriety, being known, or, and it's not that anymore, because I feel I've also learned a lot of people who I thought were successful. I don't think they are. And I don't think, it's like, it's learning things about myself and the things that I do have that they don't have. So I'm like, oh, I'm not successful because it's something about money, or it's like, a certain stat. I don't know if you want to call it status, but what's funny is I'm learning, but I have all these other things that they don't have, good things. So I think it's that idea of being true to yourself, and a good human, and good to others, and giving back, and setting your goals, and knowing that you're keeping those promises to yourself and your family. That's success. I don't know. maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, you said
I think it
something.
changes.
You said something really important, that it was a really big realization in my life. And you said, being, with success is like helping other people and stuff like that. And like, when you think of success, you often think about, like, it's very self-centered thinking, right? Like, I
Right.
want this, I want
Right.
to
That's what I
accomplish
said. I mean,
this,
I think
right?
that's what the society put in us, you know?
But I think, and this is how my mindset has changed. Like, and I can't remember if it's Zig Ziglar that says this or if it's one of those gurus, mindset gurus, right? And I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's something along like, in order to get what you want, you have to help a lot of other people get what they want.
Yeah.
And I really tried to internalize that, like, in the last couple of years, because, like, it was always, I mean, that's what society just puts out there. It's like to, step on the other person, do whatever you can at all costs, right? Undercut them, talk bad
Hmm.
about. I mean, you just look in, like, the political realm, right? It's just
Hmm.
like that's all it is, right? And it's just,
Absolutely.
and so for me to be successful, yes, like, a certain level of status would be nice, but like does that really matter in the end, result, right?
I
Of
mean, yeah, I think a lot of, things that I've gone through in the last year with my faith and spirit, spiritually has changed a lot of my perspectives on things as well, and what we need and what we don't need. But I think that absolutely I agree with you because, um, when you come to the basics and you have those vision boards of what you want, if you, there's people that really ultimately just want to find love, or, be loved, or have a magical romance. Like, well, they don't, do you really care that you have, that there's all this money that's extra? There's things that like are extra, but I think that it's defining what you really want and what you feel like you need to be fulfilled. And then, that is, I think that is an idea of success, that you've achieved the things that you ultimately want in your heart. You know what I mean? Like, not material things. But I also feel like you made a really good point about the selfishness and the agenda. And that's what I've learned over the last couple years. And I've had to set boundaries in my life with people that were about their own agendas, and takers, and things that I've experienced, that I've always been a giver, but I've also been taken advantage of. But right now in my life and things where I'm going with my business, I'm determining aspects of it, of giving back, and that it's not about the money. So I think that for me, I've had to say, I'm not going to, say, oh, I have to get paid for this and I got burned, and, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, build relationships, and I'm going to show them that I'm, I want to work with them, and it's not about the money. When I started saying that, and I have to pay my bills, we know this, right?
yeah,
But
of
when
course.
there's things that are more aligned with what you want to do, and you don't go into it as the ego, I feel, with that, that idea of the money, and, oh, I have to get this and I'm going to get to this level. um, it it's just, it starts to really come back. I feel like the universe, like you said with Megan, like with her job and this opportunity, there are a lot of people that want to move up, and we as entrepreneurs can only do so much. There's no ladder, corporate ladder, to move up. Or
Hmm. Hmm.
so there's a difference, I feel like, sometimes with entrepreneurs and business owners than there is in the corporate world in what success is. Do you think?
Hmm.
Because that is like the corporate ladder of, like, I got to move up, and I want to, be the boss and be my boss's boss and all these things. um I think that there's a really great drive in people for that, and like, but then there's also, it can also be a selfish, like, ego, power, money too. But I
Yeah.
think some of it can be genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can get such caught in that rat race of climbing the corporate ladder that, going back to one of my original thoughts about this podcast was being present in the moment. And
Hmm.
you can't be when you're so focused on, I got to get to the next step. And we're so, I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. Like, we define ourselves by what we do. Like I am a financial advisor, right?
Hmm.
Like, it's not, or like, oh, I work at Coca-Cola, or it's all about where we work and what we do, and it's not about who we are as people. And I
Well,
think
it should
that's
be.
yeah, and I think that's where the message gets. And
Yeah.
so that kind of leads me to my next thought is like, is success being or making good on your purpose? Your purpose that
I
that you have for yourself or you have for your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a stigma and a societal definition of success that has kept us all from our purpose. Like I've actually listened to podcasts that was like a point, like that they're like this whole idea of technology, the internet and consumerism and the things that are like really big media and things that they don't want us to know, and they don't want us to be this way, and they don't want us to be great, and they want to take our money, and they want us to pay taxes, like all these things that like the government and all this, not to be like political or conspiracy theorists, but that there is something about that not wanting, like the society almost not wanting us to find our purpose and our greatness. And that's why it's so hard, that why people are this growth that we're doing, and the people that that we're talking to about this is it's most people are in a fog, but I was too. I mean, I speak about stuff about the idea of success, and is it your purpose. To be honest, I've been more successful feeling in the last 6 months because I'm actually achieving things that are going towards my purpose that I found, but I didn't even know what my purpose was until I started leaning into what my purpose was.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's a process, but I think that we were blinded, and we're in this fog, and we're just brainwashed, and we're like, it's just about money and job and status, but I think it's a joke. I mean, I really do. I think it's a joke.
Yeah, I think
because most people that are like they don't know who they are, and they're not content. And I'd rather be the other way around.
Yeah, I think people just get so bogged down with life, and it's sometimes easier just to take the easy route out and just be like, well, this is what society wants me to do. I'm just going to go do it. And the reason that so many people are just struggling is because they're going against what is true to them. Right?
Yes.
They're going against what's true in their heart and what they were designed, because we all have special talents and stuff like that. We all can do different things that we're really good at that the other person isn't. But like when you suppress that part of you and you just get so like involved in the job and doing the job, and if I do the job, I earn the money. If I earn the money, I earn the status. If I earn the status, I'm successful. Right.
Yeah.
But I think what's happened to us, and there's a really interesting book that if you haven't read or if people haven't read yet, it's called The E-Myth. It's basically short for the entrepreneurial myth.
Yeah.
And most people are stuck, even as business owners, get stuck in the tactical stuff, like the actual like doing the job, and we forget how to dream, and we forget how to expand.
A new book.
There it is, the compound. That's a great book.
I just got it.
It's a really, really awesome book. You'll love it.
I was just talking to my friend Todd about all of this, about the balance. He literally is like, you got to give yourself grace. I'm like, I'm trying to find a balance. So this is so not coincidental. I mean, I don't believe in accidents at all, right? Yeah. But I was just with another friend 2 days ago, and I said something about I want to read The Compound Effect. Goes in his office, has 3 copies, and says, here, I give them out to people. And yep, I got it.
Yeah, it's a great book. I'm going to read that. Darren Hardy is a great communicator.
How funny timing.
Yeah, but yeah, getting back to that, it's just, yeah, we just get so bogged down. I think, like I said, life just beats us up. We're constantly fed just negativity and crap and stuff like that. And so sometimes it's easier just to shut off the brain and be like, well, why, what's the use in swimming upstream? Right? I might as well go with the flow.
I know.
It's
a constant battle of reminding ourselves, like our brain, I say that my mind, when I'm going, I'm going too fast that my brain can't, I need to slow down because my brain needs to slow down so that I can process all of this and say, this isn't for me and that. But my whole life, like I was going 200 miles an hour. I don't even know how. I mean, there just had to be things that were just in and out, ricochet, like a freaking, because now I know how much I've slowed down and I'm still struggling with it. But you made a really good point about being present. So like as entrepreneurs, we are always constantly thinking, about clients. It's like we can't shut it off, but we can't, we can learn to and we can do a good job, especially but if we have a couple businesses and whatnot. And then you throw meanwhile a spouse and family and kids and and financials, like, so in reality it's like there's just so much, it's so hard. And when you say about being present, I think that that's a major part of um the idea of, if you're being successful to yourself, like maybe that's like the success is being true to yourself and your values and fulfilling your duties as a human, as a spouse, as a parent. Like that is success, is like that you're you're giving 100%, and I don't want to say this 100% because sometimes, sometimes we can't give all that. But I just mean like if you know that you're being true to your values and all that, then that is success. That has nothing to do with money, like, right? Like that's nothing to do with materials. It's just about the interaction and the connections that you have with your, like the relationships that you have in your life. But I absolutely think that most people are not present, and that is a huge factor in why it's like a fog, and then they don't know what they want, and they don't know, if you don't know what you want because you've got you haven't sat down to really determine what you want, and it's like out of the job or out of, like, luckily Meg has you to bounce those ideas off, that to have somebody. Some people don't, or they do and they don't talk about it like that. But what do you think, like being present? I don't think that I don't think see how you would be able to even be successful, or you want to call it the greatness or all those things. Um, that's where that fog comes through of just kind of going, you like checked out.
Yeah, I think when I think of being present, right? Um, like the first thought that comes to my head is often, am I listening? Right? Am I listening to the people around me? Am I listening to myself? Am I listening to the universe? Right?
Hmm.
Whatever you believe, God,
Hmm.
universe, right?
Hmm.
Whatever spiritual belief you believe. And for a long time, I wasn't
Hmm.
listening.
Hmm.
I was just so focused on like, being successful, right?
Hmm.
Having the money, having the all the recognition, right? For me,
Hmm.
it's really never, for me, like there's different levels of like success, or like what people define as success. And so like for me, it's never really been about money. Like I love, like, don't get me wrong, like I want money. I want lots of it, so that
Hmm.
because it
Yeah.
reduces, you have more
Freedom,
opportunity.
time
Yeah,
freedom,
you
and
have more
financial freedom.
opportunities,
Yep.
right? The more money you have, the more opportunity that you
Right.
have. Okay. But for me, like being super successful was being recognized by my peers,
Right.
right? Being recognized by the people that I cared about the most,
Hmm.
that I looked up to, right?
Hmm.
That's what I always, so like, for me, like if it was like, oh, and I know this could sound weird for somebody, but like, make $100,000 this month, or be like recognized by my peers for, for some task that I did, I would probably choose, being recognized, just
Right.
because like that feeds me, that feeds my soul. But like going back to it, like listening is the skill set I think you need to be present, because if you're not actively listening, you can't stop. Like you can't stop yourself from doing the things that
Hmm.
make you miserable, because you're just plowing through everything. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. And I think, yes, I think that hey, Sam, buddy. I haven't talked to him for a while. Thanks for watching. But I think absolutely. But it's that clarity, it's that fog. So I think that when we don't have that clarity, we have no idea what the hell is going on. So we don't know what the hell we're doing, then we don't know what other people are doing. And stuff just like starts to mix together and and I think that being present and like you say about listening, I also think it's clearing space for the really good stuff that we want to be there and that we need to be there. Because I think that we're distracted. That's why that great book, Things That Matter, that I read about distractions last year changed my life about distractions. And when I removed a lot of distractions, and we all know the phone's a distraction, we all know TV's a distraction, but it's people, it's work, it's jobs, it's things, clutter, whatever. But there's so many things that are distractions that I think you can't be present if you also have a lot of distractions, because I don't think that you're really focused on and have the clarity to spend it on the things, and you actually like you get it, like the light bulb goes off. Because a lot of the things that we've made progress in over the last couple of years, it's like, wow, I never thought of that. Or you're evolving, right? We're like growing and we're evolving. But if you're not present into when it's happening, like processing it while it's happening and saying this is not good, or this is growth, and being able to slow down. But it's like I think when there's so much going on, I know I had a major problem with that. And I think I was present. What's wild is I'm present in what I thought in the past, which I am very much now. Like I'm not on my phone. Like when I'm out to dinner, when I'm in conversation, when I'm spending time with people, like I am not, I feel like I could leave my phone at home. I just like leave it in my purse or, something. And I try to be very present. And then you think of the people that go out and they're always on their phone. They're always looking for something else, something more, something better. And they're distracted they can't just be happy in that moment where they're at, because they're just looking for something. It's always something more or something better, or
looking for the next
sure,
moment of success or whatever.
Sure. But I think that it all has to do with not having a plan too, which you could attest to with your business and finances. I mean, we know that all day is not having you post stuff like not having a financial plan is, you could have all these memes of, quotes that, it's like being, in a hole, jumping into a hole without a shovel or a rope or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
I mean, I think it's the plan. I really think that well, I don't think it's the plan first. I think it's a vision. I think it's literally sitting down and saying, what you want, maybe what defines success.
Yeah. I mean, having a plan, I think people think of having a plan is so final. Like you have a plan and it's like that's it, right?
Maybe it's more of a path.
but the plan is meant to change, and it's meant to maneuver. And now, I used to think of financial goals as oh, you're going to retire in 30 years and we have to have this much money. And you put that's the goal, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm 36 now, 30 years from now, I'll be 66, but a lot of life can happen in 30 years, right? And so I'm not just saying about financial goals, I'm saying goals in general.
Yeah.
Goals really need to be a post you put in the ground, right?
Right.
Hey, this is the general position that we want to get to, but we need to be able to pick this post up and move it somewhere else, because things are going to change. And
yeah.
And you were just talking about, your definition of success has definitely changed just in the last year, let alone in the last 10 years, right? It's changed. And so, I mean,
ultimately though, my vision, the vision of who I am, who I've become today and who I want to be and who I'm becoming is it's there. It's like they say that it's already there. It's it already exists.
It's already in you. You are that person.
And looking back, there were a lot of things that I saw years ago. You get off path a little bit, but you said about the plan, I think that I struggled with like I'm a, perfectionism and it has to be this way. And if that doesn't work, then, if that's not working or if that doesn't go right, it's,
Yeah.
so I think that what the vision board has really helped me and make in writing down lists of things that I do want, it's been helping me to maneuver away from things that don't, that aren't aligned. But I do, just like the last couple weeks, is like struggling because I'm like, this isn't the plan. This is, and then I'm like, but maybe it is. So it's almost having to be
Mm.
open-minded and say, but is this the plan? This is, I don't like this. It's the unknown, or this is this way, but maybe that is the plan because we're going in that direction. It's almost like just at least you're going in that direction because time, you're absolutely right. I've had to take time off. Like when I got divorced, I was in my early 30s. I'd say, I'd be single till I'm 40, which I am not. I mean, I had a relationship, in between, but there's this thing, it's different when you're, I feel like when you're single, but you're not, but I I don't really care about time anymore. I think that
Mm.
I've really thought about it, and I have a girlfriend that's finishing a degree, and feeling established. We have this idea of what makes us feel we're going to be established. Instead of being, we're going to be successful. There's a word of like established, and then we feel a certain way, but we don't. I don't want to wait until that. Like that's what also a society. Oh, we gotta. I can't do this until I have this money. I can't start dating until I have, like, I'm not going to be worthy. I'm not going to be valuable. I'm not going to be, this way. But with time is also really interesting because a lot can happen in 1 year, right? Or 6 months. And I think that what we don't realize is what's building during that time, what's really growing and what we're really like seeing that major things are happening, and a lot of us have rushed things, right? And for
Yeah.
the wrong reasons. And I think that with time, like a lot has happened in this last year. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I can wait another year for a great relationship romance, right? Like I
Yeah.
know that I can because I've done it. Like I've said, I'm not gonna rush, I'm not gonna do that. But we we want to do it the right way, or I shouldn't say the right way because it's not the wrong way, but I would rather take my time and make sure that things are, better, healthier, whether it's with clients and business and that, than rushing into something. But it's funny because then we'll society that talk about that balance. You get a little bit off track, and then you have the self doubt, and then you're freaking out, like, oh, and then it's hard. It's hard to balance that. But I think it's going back to that. Look back at your vision board. Look back at, if you're getting angst about something, there's a reason. It's your intuition, and it's something that's maybe not right. But going back to going back to the core values, going back to the vision board,
I mean, that's
if
why
it
you
is,
have them.
well, yeah, it's not just there to like that you did it and you put it in your head one day and that you don't. I stared at I just yesterday and today because I was going through all this, confusion, and I stared at it again. It's you guys, it's here. You guys see it. It's huge. And that list right there is my list of my man, my future man. And I'm telling you, I go to the list and I'm like, nope, not on the list,
Yeah.
And I
No.
know that sounds crazy, but if there's certain things that are really big in, just like you and Meg when you had the conversation, is this going to serve our future family? And I knew my life wasn't conducive for a relationship and a family going the speed that I was going. And I made significant changes to allow that space premeditatively, or what's the word? Pre,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I know what you're saying.
because I didn't want to meet somebody and say, oh my gosh, this is, I got timing's everything, and it happens at the right time. But I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to create that space now to allow that, and over time, it's been a year or two, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, like most people would probably hear that you have a list and be like, oh, that sounds like, very self centered. But like, you would hope that somebody else would do the exact same thing for you. Like you would fit what they were looking for and be very specific, because if you don't call it out, like for, in that book, The E-Myth, they have you do an exercise where you just literally just write down what you want your business to be like in the next couple of years. Like, like, what are you making? Like, what are you doing? Like, where are you at? Like, and like, just dream for a second, and instead of just like putting those old goals, oh, I want to have this much revenue. I want to have the, like, just thinking about, like, how many people are you going to work for you? Like, how many offices are you going to have?
Right.
How many, clients is each office going to service? Like, thinking about all those nuanced types of things, like, what is your office going to look like? How is it going to feel when somebody walks into your office?
Details down to the details.
Yeah, just down to the details, because like it makes it so much more real. Like, and but like, going back to what you said is super important. Like, you have to have that like anchor to come back to, because we all know, like,
we'd be floating.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, especially because like the types of people that me and you we're like very, what's it, yellow? Was it yellow?
Yes, yellow.
Yes, yeah, we're all we're all over the place, right? And so, somebody that's probably like very like regimented maybe might not have that same problem. They have exactly the opposite problem. They can't freely just float and be creative, right? They have to have very regimented steps, right? So, so they deal with it on the opposite end of the spectrum. But like, times get tough, like you said. I got to look at it, right? Or you just feel like, am I on the right path, right? Like, am I, the things I'm doing right now? Like, it's a great way to give yourself an audit of where you're at.
Right.
Just
like you said, about 3 months in,
Yeah. Am I closer or farther away from my goal than when I originally had started?
Right.
And so, and so that's what this was all about, was just being like, okay, well, like, looking back at the last 3 months, did I hit the goals that I wanted to? I mean, not every business goal I hit. I hit a couple of them, but like, I was like, who defines that if I was a success or a complete failure, right? Like, I had some successes, I had some failures, but what defines success then in that situation? Because you have some missteps, right?
I mean, making progress. I mean, I think, any type of success is that we're going in the right direction, and it's baby steps. And I've learned it's a marathon, not a sprint. I've said it, I say it all the time, because we forget to give ourselves credit for our wins and our accomplishments. So we kind of hold everything that we did wrong and that we didn't do, but we forget to say what we did do and our wins. And Brandon said burnout is real, and you have to have that balance of jumping in versus reasonable caution. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm a balance seeker, if you can see on my. But what's interesting about this is I'm about 6 weeks in to weekly Monday meetings for goals setting. And it started with somebody that was just more of like a business mentor friend that we were on the same page, wanting to really hone in on what those goals are. And what's really interesting was, I question, what's the vision? So on one of the podcasts I was listening to, it's great to have goals, right? We say that you have goals, like dreams, you can have dreams, but it's just, goals are just dreams without a plan, or whatever they call it, right? Yeah. But what's really interesting is over the last 6 weeks to watch like weekly putting down tasks, to-do lists, things like just talking as business owners, saying, and creative and problem solving and all that. It's like, that's needed too, right? That's like on a weekly basis, or even just, overall, as an ongoing thing each week, like what's going on, what's needed, whatever. And there's personal aspects to it. But if you don't have, they're saying, like, if you don't have the vision and your mission of who you are and what you want to be in life, which I'm just figuring out now, it's like, what the hell was I doing for the last 20, as an adult, you think of for how long is the goals are really like the stepping stones, right? Of getting there and like kind of tasks and getting them done. And it could be on a yearly basis or every couple months or whatever, these goals that you hit these goals. But in reality, there's this idea of the vision and which is our greatness that we, kind of that idea of it. Is that really what success is finding our greatness and becoming, our destined greatness of who we're supposed to be that's inside of us. I mean, getting through those little tiny, and it's discipline. I just posted this morning. I'm having a hell of a time getting back on my on my routine after a couple of days of not being on it. And it's that discipline, that is really hard. It's really hard. And I think there's a lot going on when we're working on our personal growth, when we're working on our professional growth. It can be overwhelming. And I think that ultimately, do we have a vision for what we want out of life? And I think there's a lot of people that don't. They don't know what they want. They don't know who they are. They don't know who they want to be. Like it's still inside because it's all clouded and fog because of all this, childhood trauma and divorce or, work related fog and whatever it is.
Just going on in the world.
It's like, that's where I'm saying, like, it's almost like this process of clearing that away so you have clarity and be present. Then it's figuring out your vision, and then it's setting your goals after, right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot.
It is. It is a lot, and it's because we've been programmed a certain way for so long that you have to unprogram bad stuff to reprogram good stuff. Brandon's here. He's a programmer. He programs
he's
stuff.
A programmer. He knows on the literal, very
I'm
literal
sure he's
term.
taking out some bad programs in his day and putting better programs.
Right, but
but it takes work.
We're just doing it at at this age.
But I think we're better off for doing it at this age. I mean, we were meant to do it in this age.
I think
because I don't think it would have stuck if I would have been 25, and trying to do this. Like,
well, yeah.
I think we need to give ourselves credit. Like, there are people that go out through their entire life that never know who they are or never even question it, right? So positive affirmations every single day.
I have it on right in the morning. I say, Alexa, good morning. And I don't know if she's going to say it, but I have a couple of things that I started, listening to in the morning, and I do a positive affirmation. It's the affirmation of the day. But
one thing, I was gonna say one thing I do that I love. It really came from two people, Mel Robbins and David Goggins. David Goggins called it the accountability mirror, and Mel Robbins called it the
high five habit.
Yeah, high five habit, where you talk to yourself in the mirror, right?
Yep.
And so
give yourself a high five.
I started doing that, and the days that I don't do it, like the days I forget, because I'm still into putting that into my habits. The days I don't do it, it's weird. It's a weird day, but the days I do it, I get better results.
Yeah, I do same thing. And when I don't, it's even with my routine in general. But I have it on the Alexa too, where I say, high five. And I have it say something back to me, and it's going to be a great day. You can do this. God is with you, kind of things that you can have it say. And it changes. Hearing that every single morning, and just, you're right, like looking at yourself in the mirror and giving yourself a high five, being your own cheerleader is, it's that oxygen mask. Like, we have to take care of ourselves first and love ourselves first. And that's the other thing, is there's people out there that are just trying to please other people, and they're not trying to focus on their problems. And there are a lot of things that we don't even know. I started digging deep into some of my, things with childhood, and, I didn't even know that it existed. It was almost like I blocked out a lot of things. And once I started to uncover them, things started to make a lot more sense as to how that's affected me now, and the things that I do, and like my triggers and all that. But I don't think that we could do that if we're not, again, present and have clarity, and we're distracted. So I think ultimately, it takes a lot of time. I mean, it's taken a couple years, I feel like, to get here. And I know Lewis Howes on his School of Greatness, and there's it took him 10 years to get to where he's at with doing the work.
But to
10
everybody
years.
else, he seemed like an overnight success, right?
Yeah, but 10 years. I mean, and
Yeah.
he had a significant trauma and sexual abuse and like, I mean, that's stuff that like a lot of people don't talk about. And it's things that are just in the back of our, could just be your parent, like the childhood. And there's just so much stuff that we've, we don't talk about. And I think that's, why what we've talked about the podcast and therapy and things. But I don't know, to be very honest, that people can really be truly present if they're not addressing those things. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I think that will lead to them being successful.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I mean, you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and the starting point is asking those tough questions, like sitting down with yourself and like asking who you want to be, like where you want to be, like, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be the perfect answer, but at least it's a starting point. At least you're starting somewhere, and you're saying like, this is like the person I am right now is not who I want to be. This is what I think success is, right? And writing that down, and then asking yourself, why do you think that's successful? Like, why do you want to become that person? Do you really see that as success? Because that's going to give clarity to your purpose, right?
Right. Like defining who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately for me, it has always been this way, but it was about serving other people, helping others and giving to others. And I've always said that, like in my high school yearbook, my quote was, the true character of a man is what they can do for somebody and not expect anything in return from them.
Yeah.
And that's wild for an 18-year, like at 18, Melissa, it was about giving to others and not expecting anything in return. And I've struggled with that because I have my own business and I have to get paid, right? I mean, that's, so there's this balance in that's been who I am, that was my quote, like that defined me. And that does today is, Leadership Harrisburg for servant leadership. And I've been involved in nonprofits and I want to give back and I want to help people, but I want to bring out the best in other people. I want to help that. And I do think that one of the things that, another idea of success or greatness is what you can do for the world and what you can bring and the impact that you can make for others. Is that, I think, is really success, is how you can help, how many people that you can help. And that's one of the things, is creating your vision. Lewis House says, I want to impact 1 million people a day. 1 million people a day. I don't know. Maybe it's a week. Sounds ambitious, but it's really being, and he says, be specific, be very, very specific. So you want to read what Brandon?
Yeah, so Brandon wrote here, I think for each person individually, it is truly defining success. For a long time, I let other people define for me what success was, and played out on my mind for the longest time. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is the outside, the external influences of what other people think is success that you're around, and who you surround yourself with. Because a lot of people even, we could get suggestions all day, and you should do this and you should do that. And I've heard, Melissa, you'd be great at realtor, and hey, will you do sales and medical device? And, you could make all this money and you'd be really great at it. I'm like, thank you. So it is interesting having to have those external,
to balance the definition of your success versus what they think is successful. And it's not always monetary money that defines success, and that's really hard, especially like in the entrepreneurial world, especially when you're first starting out. You're not going to be making, very few people, less than 1% of the population that starts a business like comes out hot out of the gates, right?
Coming in hot.
Most people struggle to make any type of money until they can get all, it takes a couple of years to really, you can make money, but to make it consistently and to do things right, it takes a while. It takes trial and error. And I think, the most successful people in my mind have tried things and failed more than any other person on the planet, right?
Well, what do we got here? Henry Ford.
Yep.
Yep. Failure
So
is, what does it say? Simply an opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
yes, you have more data to go off of what you're doing and stuff like that. So, but
Yep.
no, that was yeah. I I love that quote by him. It makes me think of like
Isn't
Thomas
it? Wait, let me
Edison.
just make sure. Yep, Henry Ford. I want to make sure that
It just
in
makes
this
me think of
quote.
all the great people that came before us.
I mean, look at all the things I feel. The Starbucks, how many times she went to try to get a loan, right? 30 times, 50 times was told no, and then finally did.
Yeah,
I
it just
mean,
takes one.
yep.
Just takes one. So, but I don't know. I think that's a good kind of place to kind of segue the end here. But there is a point of the show where we like to do a couple different things for you guys. And if you haven't been here before, like I said, towards the end of the show, what we do is we do two things. The first thing is the millennial meme of the week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it was my turn. I think it was my turn. It might have been who. It doesn't matter,
Yes.
right? But it
Mm-hmm.
was my topic, so I decided to
Yes. Yes.
to pop one up. So you can probably see it already.
Oh God.
It's a picture of this cat. He's got like a really funny face, like a little like sad face, and it says, "Too much stress, can't handle the pressure."
It's more like can't handle the pressure.
Yeah, yes. So, but that is the millennial meme of the week, and the last thing
Yes.
we like to do on the show here is it's Mel's moment.
Yes. I love
So
it. Mm-hmm.
this is another point in the show where Mel gets to end the show with leaving us with some piece of advice, comment, something along those lines to take us into the weekend and just to kind of refresh our mind. So Mel, take it away.
So, my friend Jen and I were texting this morning. I want to give a little bit of her quote and insight because it's really great when you can talk to people, having the support system. And some people don't have that. And you really, I think, finding that support system and saying that I was struggling with the balancing certain things. So, this is a great, great podcast topic. But one of the things that, one of her answers was that I was feeling confused and that I wasn't sure. And she said that you're feeling this way right now because your feelings are unclear. And when things are happening in a situation that you're not like, I'm very much about honesty and transparency. And when it comes to clients or like you with Megan, and it's like, what do I do? Where is this clarity? Like if if you aren't sure, there's a reason why there's confusion. Is this good for me? So I think that going back to the conversation that we had about weighing the pros and cons, but I think ultimately a lot of it is about transparency and having and communication, right? So I think that that one of the things about the balance is understanding our strengths, our weaknesses, who we are, and that the things that are happening that we're getting into these positions where we're not sure and we have that, like, we don't have that clarity, we're not really sure what's going on, is to revisit um, that vision board that we said and just really stay true to who you are. What your ultimate, if there's short-term goals, long-term goals, and your vision. If there's something that's telling you that it's off, maybe it's just because it's not aligned with that vision, and in your heart, and that's kind of your answer, is that it's not aligned. And you either have to dig and you have to figure out, why is this not aligned, through communication. Sometimes it's a really easy conversation with somebody and it's like, oh, that's gone, right? So that balance might be that we're assuming things, or we're not discussing things, we're not, we don't have the support system to ricochet some things off of. So I think there is a reason why we're feeling that way, but we just have to lean into it and make sure that it's aligned and just kind of I think the answers will come.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. No, I totally agree with all that. I mean, it's all about creating that balance. That's what it comes down to. So, but I had to pop up this comment right by Brandon right here at the very end because if anybody knows me, I like to use Chat GPT And he said, you need to use ChatGPT to help assist with the pressure.
You know what, Brandon? That's a great suggestion because I've used it for like topics for creative, for, hey, I want to have like 20 different Easter posts or, things that are like creative. But, I might lean into ChatGPT to help me with some of my personal problems now too. See what happens.
Oh
Become like another friend of like, Alexa's become my best friend because she's here with me 24/7. Like we're roommates. Now ChatGPT
can be your therapist.
Yes.
So
I have one of them too. So,
yeah.
I have several. No, I'm kidding. Friends.
Well, anyways, guys, we appreciated everybody that jumped on today, commented, liked. You definitely, helped the show and bring a little bit extra content. But we appreciate everybody that jumped on. So make sure you have a really, really good weekend. Make some good memories with your family. Make sure that you check us out every Friday. Another episode at 2:00. We'll be here next week for you guys, so make sure you tune in then, and then make sure you tune into all the other stuff that we do too, right?
Catch some of the older episodes if you want to listen up on some topics.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, have a good rest of your day. We will talk soon. We'll see you next Friday. Have a good one. Bye. Guys.